Hello everyone, today I'm here to do another Mashup review. So if you're unfamiliar with my channel, which I feel like I say this all the time, but I do a lot of these now. Mashup reviews where I take 3 recently read books or 3 books within the same genre that I've read recently and review them all for you in one video. They are all spoiler free and I just tell you what they are about, what I thought about them, and what I rated them. So I say spoiler free for this video in particular because I am talking about 3 YA fantasy books, which I think is very important to note with spoilers because fantasy books, you know, they have a lot to spoil, so I'm going to keep these all spoiler free for you. These are just going to really be telling you what I thought about them and if I think and if I would recommend them to you. So it's pretty much, these videos are like a little taste of like, hey, would I want to read this? Maybe, and then you can watch this and decide if you want to or not. The books I'll be talking about today are Furyborn by Claire Legrand, Children of Blood and Bone by Tommy Adeyemi, and Ash Princess by Lauren Sebastian. So these all, like I said, are YA fantasy books, and these are all first books in a series. So let's talk about this one. So Furyborn is a book in the Empyrean trilogy. First of all, I love the cover. I was very excited to read this because the synopsis, the description of it sounded amazing. It sounded right up my alley. And I don't want to say I was let down by this book, but I didn't love it as much as I wanted to. This book is tricky to explain. So we have 2 timelines going on quintessentially in this book. We have one there, and they're not like years apart. They're like 1,000 years apart. So like a lot of time difference in the time span. So in one time span we are following Raelle, who has a lot of powers and things like that, and she reveals her powers one day to save the crown prince, who she's very, very close to, and people realize that she might be the next prophesized queen because it's always been said in this world there's going to be 2 queens, one of blood and one of sun. And so Raelle must endure like a set of trials to prove that she is the sun queen, and that's what her whole storyline is about. So we have that one set 1,000 years in the past. Then we follow up to 1,000 years in the future. We follow a character named Elena, and Elena is an assassin. She is like a bounty hunter, if you will. She just does a lot of things not the best to save her family, her brother, and her mom. Her mother vanishes and she decides to join the captain in order to find her, and basically she has a mission from there. So we have these 2 characters that are 1,000 years apart, but something ties them together. If you can't already tell, I feel like that's not, I'm not spoiling anything, but I think with just a synopsis you can tell clearly what's going on. These characters, I liked both of them. I didn't love either of them. They were both very flawed characters. They both are characters that just kind of consume power and do what they want to do. I will say I did find Raelle's storyline much more interesting. She's the one that had to endure all of these trials for the Sun Queen. You know, I don't know, it reminds me a lot of Goblet of Fire, when Harry had to do all of his trials, when Harry had to face all of his challenges, things like that. I just love a good book where there's like set trials and, you know, you have to face these things and things like that. So I did enjoy her storyline immensely more than Elena's because it was a lot more going on in it, and I just liked that aspect of it. Elena's story I did like, I didn't love. I feel like a lot of it was just kind of action, 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 which is another thing I didn't love about this book, is it was action-packed. Like, and when I say action-packed, I mean like from start to end action-packed. And with fantasy books, I feel like there has to be a good mixture of a lot of action and a lot of dialogue and world building, but with this book I feel like we got 95% action and 5% world building and dialogue. So with that, the world building wasn't amazing. I feel like I don't understand this world quite as well with the magic system and things like that. Like, we talk about it briefly, but we don't learn more about it, which I didn't love because the whole book was just straight up action. Like, there would be a fight sequence and I'd be like, okay, let's talk now. Nope, we're gonna switch POVs and go to another character and they're gonna have a fight sequence. And it was just kind of back and forth with that. And sounds like I'm back in this book. Because it was action-packed, I will say it flew by quickly. I read this a lot faster than I thought I was going to read it because of the sheer action in it. So I did enjoy it. Like, it was interesting, and I do want to continue on with this series because especially with the end, I'm invested in the storyline. I guess what was going to happen. So I don't know if that says anything, but my main complaints from this book are so much action, not enough build-up of the world, nor the characters. Also, these characters are unlikable. I'd say they're kind of, which I don't hate at all. I don't mind unlikable characters, but I want to see somewhat of a redemption arc in both of them. And I feel like one of them we got a redemption arc, but I want to see more of it. So overall, would I recommend this book? I'd say if you're an avid fantasy lover, maybe I don't know if you would love this one as much, but if you're new into the fantasy genre, I think maybe you would like this one because it's just straight up action. So a lot of times with fantasy, it's so much world build up and so much backstory, you're just like getting bogged down by that. This one doesn't have that. That sounds so bad. But you know what I'm saying? Like it's more action, so you may like appreciate it more than the avid fantasy reader. Overall, I enjoyed it. I gave a 4 out of 5. So I just wanted to see more growth with the next book. I want to see more dialogue and more world building and more backstory than just straight up action. So yeah. The next book I want to talk about is Children of Blood and Bone by Tami Adeyemi, which is definitely my favorite of the pile. I loved this book. It's been getting a lot of hype lately and I think it's well deserved. So this book, I should note also, has been optioned for a movie and it would be an amazing movie at that. So just so you know about that. So in this book we follow 3 characters and this is a West African inspired book, and we follow one of our main characters named is Zele, and Zele comes from this land where magic was very abundant and it was happening, and we had magi's and they had different elements and things like that. And Zele's mother was a very, very strong magi. She just remembers her mom so vividly and how strong a magi she was, and Zele remembers the day magic died. We have this king, and this king hates magic, hates the magi and everything like that, so he eradicates magic, and Zele remembers the day of which magic was eradicated and he killed all of the magi, including Zele's mother. And now we fast forward to Zele as 17 years old, and she has a vendetta. She has a lot of anger with her because her mother was brutally murdered, magic was taken away from her people, and the other 2 POVs we follow are actually brother and sister, and they are princess and princess to the evil king. We have Amani, who is the princess, and she basically discovers something that her dad is doing, and her and Zele team up because they can figure out that they can bring magic back. So they team up together. Anan, who is Amani's brother, who is the prince, and he hates magic just like his father. He really wants to please his father, so he goes out on the hunt for Amani and Zele. And this book is all about a journey to bring magic back, to bring the magi to full power again, and I loved it. I thought the world building was great. I thought the action was there. I thought this book was a great first book in a series, and not only that, it was a great debut book at that. This book I think is, I wouldn't say it's the perfect fantasy book, but it checked off a lot of the boxes I wanted in a fantasy, which is good action, good dialogue, good world building, and good magic system. I love the magic system. I thought it was explained nicely. I love the world building. I love the setting. I love the characters. The only thing I didn't love about this was the romances. I mean, I'm a fan of romances, I will say that, but I don't feel like it was necessary in this series for the romances. I don't not like them, but I feel like it was very insta-lovey, especially with 2 characters. I was like, wow, that happened fast. So I kind of knocked it back down from like a 5 stars because of that, because I just didn't love the insta-love. Overall, I think this is a great fantasy book to read. I'd say if I could pitch it to you, it's like Black Panther but with magic. I think that's great. So I would highly recommend this series. I loved everything about it. The cover alone, I would definitely be continuing on with the series because the way it ended too was a cliffhanger. That's not spoiling, just letting you know. It's not gonna end like you think it's gonna end. It's gonna end completely surprised and like I'm still thinking about the cliffhanger. So overall, I gave this book like a 4.5, 4.75 out of 5. I really, really enjoyed it. It did take me a while to read because of world building, but that's just me. I'm a slow fantasy reader. It takes me a while, but I thought this book was amazing. The last book I want to talk about is Ash Princess by Lauren Sebastian. Like I said, this is the first book in a series. It's all about our main character, Theodosia. I'm just gonna call her Theo because that's what she calls herself. And she was 6 when her country was invaded and her mother, the Fire Queen, was murdered. And we have a Kaiser that takes over her whole land and her kingdom, and he lets Theo stay alive just so he can show like, this is what I'm gonna do. And he crowns her the Ash Princess to show like, you know, that she means nothing. And people even call her differently. They call her a different name and everything. Now years later, Theo is, you know, kind of a prisoner there. She's just there for the Kaiser's amusement. And she decides she is going to take her kingdom back and take her people back and do all of the things that she should have done and just reclaim the throne. And so this book, if you can tell, is kind of full of YA tropes. You have the girl that is taking her kingdom back, queen who's finally coming back, and we have a love triangle in it, and we have a lot of fantasy things that I feel like I've read time and time again. But I will say, I enjoyed this book. I have the best reviews on it, I'm not gonna lie to you, but I mean, I read it quickly. I thought it was interesting. I didn't love the love triangle in it, but I didn't hate it. Like, I don't know where to go with the love triangle, I'll say that, but I mean, it was an interesting book, and like I said, it's full of tropes, but sometimes tropes just pull me in, and I can't help but like it. There are, like, the character, Theo, it's not the best. Like, I didn't hate her, but I don't love her either. I wanted more from her, and I will say this is a brutal book because Theo gets treated really horribly because that's what the Kaiser does, and the world building was okay in this book. The magic, there is magic in this book, but I feel like it's just like, you know, here's magic, and we don't really talk about how magic came to be and why certain people have magic and the other people don't have magic. It was just kind of thrust upon you. So I don't think like everything was explained 100%. This one doesn't surprisingly have so much action in it. It's more kind of like a overthrowing the throne type of plot, which I liked, so I thought that was action in itself enough for me as you're trying to overthrow the king. But overall, I give this book a 3.5 out of 5. To whether or not I will continue on with the series depends. With fantasy series, you never know how many books they're going to be. Like, sometimes it'll say trilogy and then they'll expand it more and things like that. I'd say if this will be a trilogy, I probably will continue on with it. It's going to be, if it's going to be like an 8-book series, maybe not. I don't know. If it's like a duology, for sure. But if it's a trilogy, I think I probably will continue on with the series because I am interested to see what the next book will be like. Hopefully talking more about the magic and kind of more about, you know, how we're going to overthrow the king and things like that. So I'd say I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I liked this book, and at the end I was like, wow, I like this book. I wasn't expecting to because out of these 3, this was like the least, like the lowest rated on Goodreads, but I enjoyed it. So I don't know, maybe take my advice with a grain of salt. So there you have my thoughts and opinions on these 3 books. It's no secret that my favorite of the bunch was definitely Children of Blood and Bone. I did, however, enjoy the other 2. I think they're both pretty decent YA fantasy series, but they're not my favorite, I don't think. But who knows, maybe with the second book with all of these, they'll just continue to grow on and be better, and hopefully with these 2 that the second book will just be amazing and really outshine the first one. Oh my gosh, sounds like I'm bashing. I'm not bashing, I promise. So if you have read any of these books, please let me know what your thoughts and opinions were. I would love to hear if you thought the same or differently. Also, please keep in mind to not spoil any of these books in the comments because I know there can be a lot to spoil with all 3 of them, so please don't spoil. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.